This is Roger Struckoff with Syscon TV. We're at Cloud Expo East in New York. I'm sitting here with Charles Fiesel. This is the year 2014. Wow. We've been doing this a long time. We've been on camera together doing these things for about 10 years.
Absolutely.
We think we like to be a real leading edge here. Not only cloud computing, big data, Internet of Things. We're doing DevOps this week in New York. It's fantastic. Let's go back in history a little bit. I heard a guy today present from a major company. He went all the way back to 2002. I think when it comes to cloud, you go back a little further than that. When do you go back? Tell me about it. I gotta hang
back in 1996 and 97, one of our first clients working with the Allaire brothers who built Cold Fusion was a company called OutOfOffice.com. And at that time, Trish Gilligan was the chief operating officer at Navisite. They had just opened up their NOC in Andover on Minuteman Road. And I remember going up there as a young guy coming up from Cambridge and into this NOC and like, oh my God, it was just mind-boggling. And that was right at the same time that Cold Fusion was coming to market. We had this first product for OutOfOffice.com. And so we actually hosted this application. Now, since HTML, that would definitely be considered one of the first cloud computing applications. It was heralded by the Allaire brothers at Allaire Corporation, and which became Macromedia, now is Adobe. But the folks at Navisite, that was really, really groundbreaking at the time. But the thing that I find to be really, really interesting is that back then, it just seemed to be part of, exploring what was possible, was part of the daily equation. And now we're still looking at, 14, 15, 16 years later, we're still looking at these things, and some of the questions really haven't changed. And that's the thing I think that, whereas historically we've gotten more sophisticated, but some of the questions are still the same.
Well, it's interesting because it's the inevitability of Moore's Law. And so we look at 17 years of that. Right. The smart ones out there can figure out how many iterations that is. But it's a lot more processing power, and storage is a lot cheaper today. But the data always seems to keep up. So, that's the thing. We always end up with these powerful systems. Data seems to keep up. Like you say, the questions remain.
Right. Yeah. The questions remain, but I think the issues are going to shift in the next year or so. What I'm looking at, we talk about cloud power, the amount of power that we could from the collective, all of these servers. I actually believe that's going to change. When you look at the kids up at Harvard, they have basically created some algorithms to go in and analyze why is the money from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation that's over here trying to help people out get with medication over here, and it's not getting there, and these people are dying. So the United Nations and the USAID, they put together all of the data that they had, whether with the turbulence, political turbulence between the different areas. They put tons of computing power behind it and couldn't find it. And these kids up at Harvard, it's in the last issue of Harvard Magazine, they wrote 3 algorithms. And those algorithms could basically search through all of the data in such a way that structured and unstructured content could be processed in 45 minutes, what a mainframe processing center with supercomputing couldn't do. So I think the notion of cloud computing with integrated algorithms is going to be the next step of big data.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. So how do you apply that to sort of, I won't say the real world because they're dealing in the real world, but how do you apply that more broadly? That's the idea. Now, what challenges are going to people face? How can they benefit from this? You're looking at, processing and storage and bandwidth that was unthinkable years ago. But what's the practical reality?
I actually am going to change the subject on that because I remember one of our first conversations when Ajax was first the buzzword of the day, the nom du jour, and Laszlo was in the marketplace, NexoWeb, Adobe Flex, and I think really it's back to those days of how do we improve the user experience. Data is much more accessible. The folks from SOA Software are here. They're creating. This is the API economy. The APIs and algorithms that allow us to access data. It doesn't matter if you're a small organization or a large organization. You're going to need an API to connect to whatever that data infrastructure is. So I think the notion of a lot of these technical terms, the fear that they bring, oh my God, APIs, SOA, it's going to become just like shoes, putting on shoes. You need a bridge. That's all it is. An API is a little bridge from here to there, and that's it. Up until recently, the data was in a server. It doesn't matter that it's in hundreds of thousands of servers or an algorithm connecting all of that data through, smart analytics.
Okay, now, recent traction with Internet of Things. We have our first program on it here at the show this year, first exhibitors about it. How's the Internet of Things rocking or changing your world, or what's it doing to your world?
Well, you've known me pretty much since the days of natural intelligence and then Round Arch, and I recently joined Vectorform, and the reason why I joined Vectorform was that they actually are doing some really forward thinking programs. They just launched something with Detroit Edison that is just really, it's connecting all of the dots in a very, very simple way, but the key is it's consumer friendly, and it's very, very polished, and so really smart engineering. It's like an Olympic diver. When they go up and they just do a single flip, it's as simple as can be. Great user experience takes that amount of practice, but the outcome is simple, it's elegant, and it's useful. And so I think that we're now, with the API economy, coming into a new type of frontier, which actually is going to realize some of the promises back from those Ajax days, where user experience is even more compelling because the data is truly cinematic in its richness.
Sitting here with Charles Fiesel, we're talking about acrobatic flips. I can barely do a single flip like that anymore.
I'm happy I can swim.
And we're talking about, it's getting pretty deep in here.
Yep.
We're talking about the API economy. How can people contact you and your company? How should they go about it? It's clear they're going to learn a lot when they do. What's the best way to contact you?
Vectorform.com. You can reach out to Jason in Detroit, or myself or Aaron here in New York. C. Fiesel at Vectorform.com. Looking forward to speaking with you.
Charles, thanks for joining us again.
Good to be here.
Everyone, thanks for watching.
It's good to be here.
We're back in the saddle again. Want me to sing? No, I'm not going to sing. For Syscon TV, this is Roger Struckoff.